Welcome to another edition of WTOP's Beer of the Week. I'm Brennan Haselton, as always with Greg Engert, Beer Director for the Neighborhood Restaurant Group, which includes such places as Evening Star Cafe and Planet Wine in Delray. This is interesting. What's on tap this week?
Well, this week, I figured since we're right in the thick of Savor Week here in Washington, D.C.,
I can smell it from here.
Yeah, it's huge. No, it's huge, man. No, it's great. So, Savor is, of course, the amazing food and beer experience annually occurring at the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C. What's great about this event, or one of the great things about the event, is that it brings in brewers and people from all over the country to D.C., and you get to taste beers you don't typically taste in the district. So, of course, this week we've had an event every single night from breweries we have in the district, typically like Flying Dog or Sierra Nevada. But we've also been featuring beers from breweries you just can't find around here, like Deschutes from Oregon,
right,
or Cigar City, which is what we're going to taste right now. Okay. So I think in a few episodes ago we talked about Cigar City because Blue Jacket, which is the forthcoming brewery, bar, and restaurant from the Neighborhood Restaurant Group, myself included, is going to be opening next year. We have been brewing many collaboration beers in anticipation of this, and our first, which we debuted at Church Key this week, was with Cigar City and another Florida brewery called Funky Buddha. Absolutely awesome. We have some stashed away, so we will be pouring it,
you didn't miss it
in the future. And so in the spirit of collaboration, and because Cigar City is one of the best American breweries, I thought we'd drink this. This is called Dos Costas Osta, 2 West Coast, and it also is a collaboration between Cigar City from Tampa on the west coast of Florida and the brewery from Placentia, California, in Southern California, the west coast United States. So 2 West Coasts. Now the base of this beer is a strong Saison. It's brewed with coriander, ginger, sweet orange peel. But of course when you smell it, you get a little of that, but you get something more. They took this base beer and they matured it 3 different ways. So you can get this beer that's been matured on lemon wood, like lemon tree wood spirals, or you can get the same base beer that's matured on grapefruit tree wood spirals, and those treatments are the beer being matured for 3 weeks on both. A little bit like less wood character coming through. The third version, which is what we have right here, is that same base Saison with spices matured for not 3 weeks but 8 weeks on cedar spirals. Which is cool because the 8 weeks make sure that cedar is pretty intense, but it's absolutely incredible. It's really intense, but it flows so nicely in with the citrus, the fermentation, fruit and spice characteristics, and it's a natural fit for Tampa Bay because that's cigar country, and cigar boxes make sense. So they tend to incorporate cedar in quite a few of their beers.
That's great. And until you mentioned it, I didn't know exactly what I was smelling, but cool. I knew I wanted to drink it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Wow.
It's like peppered wood, and you want to talk about like a food beer? Think about smoking like seafood and fish, and just like barbecue shrimp. Putting like oysters on the grill, things like that. I love this because the cedar wood brings a kind of a woody quality to the beer, of course. Also a slight kind of savory smoke quality. Then it has that same citric effect that can liven up seafood. So this is like, if you can get your hands on this bottle, and it is quite rare, of course, bring this out for like any kind of a clam bake or something like that, and it's phenomenal.
A lot of people have tried hoppy beers, but if you're ready to really step out of your comfort zone, and I say that in only the most complimentary way about this beer, this would be a great one. It's not, as sort of powerful as a sour can be,
right,
but it's got a unique taste that could really open some doors for people, I think.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, what's great about it is nowadays, you'll find beers that are made with anything under the sun. But what's crazy about this is that once I tell you that it's been aged on cedar spirals, you're like, of course, got it. But I love the fact that you smelled it and you tasted it before you found that out, and you couldn't, the great beer, if the flavors are integrated, something's going on, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah,
it just works.
I don't know that I would have guessed. I mean, if it was just soaked in, if it just tasted like a cedar plank, I would know, and you wouldn't like that.
Exactly.
But it's subtle, and
it's an amazing thing, and what's great about it is, the difference between the other 2 treatments, they were only 3 weeks, meaning that Wayne Wambles, who's the brewmaster at Cigar City and one of the most brilliant brewers I've met in my travels, he must, they taste these things along the way and they decide when it's right. And with the other grapefruit wood and the lemon wood, they decided, integration was there. And I'm sure maybe the cedar didn't come out early. And then as it did, they just liked the way it was coming into the beer and working with the beer, so they left it there. And so this ended up staying in stainless steel tanks on cedar wood spirals for 8 weeks because that's when it was right. And they determined that by taste. It's an art. It's not just science there.
And treating beer, storing beer, soaking beer, whatever word you want to use, beer in wood is certainly not unusual because you've got like Anchorage Brewing.
Oh yeah,
certain breweries.
Every beer they make is wood. Yeah,
is in Chardonnay oak barrels.
Yep,
is that right?
That's for Anchorage. Yep.
And Dogfish Head has this amazing beer, Palo Santo Marron.
Yep.
We
always have that on draft. Yeah, here.
This very unique wood from Central or South America.
Paraguay.
It's dynamite.
It's amazing. And what's interesting too is these. So instead of aging this in like a cedar barrel, they're aging it in stainless steel tanks, conditioning it in the tanks with spirals, and they come down like this. And what's funny is a lot of people think that if it's not in a barrel, that it doesn't have as much integrity, maybe because barrels, I don't know, they look cooler and stuff. But actually, you can get a lot more flavor typically out of chips or spirals because the amount of surface area of the wood itself to the beer, it's going to hit the beer a lot more than it would in just on the exterior of a barrel. So there can be something to be said for spiral treatments or chip treatments for being more influential to the flavor.
You mentioned clam bake, seafood. I mean, I think this would be great with Pacific Northwest smoked salmon, and I differentiate the two because I'm from Seattle. I'm biased. I think the smoked salmon out there is better than anywhere else. To me, it's fishier in other places. It's just good and dry and smoky out there. That'd be great.
That would be awesome
else?
With this. I mean, that when you said that made me think like just all sorts of raw fish. I mean, I could eat sushi all day with this. I think that, think about it. It's got a little smokiness, a little woody quality, and fish across the board just tastes awesome with both of those flavors. So, that makes me think of that, especially, we're in D.C. now, and it's, of course, getting humid and hot. And you think about cold, light, refreshing seafood preparations, raw preparations. I think it would just be phenomenal with this. Oysters, I think, would be great with this as well. And
we've talked about a number of collaborations in the past few weeks, over the past couple of months. I meant to say, we're about 6 months into Beer of the Week. It's amazing how quickly it's gone by.
Can't believe it's still going on.
We started at the beginning of December of last year. A lot of collaborations, 2 or 3 heads better than one. More and more we can expect to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you know what else? The life of the brewer and the brewery has become so much more fun and interesting because of things like collaboration and barrel aging and just more and more occasional beers. In the old days, even craft brewers when they first were starting out, you'd have 4 or 5 year-round beers, pumping volume on them all the time. Maybe a seasonal beer for each season, maybe 2 for a couple, and that was it. And your brewers came in, and it was an amazing job because they had to just make sure that it always tasted exactly the right way. But it's just a lot of just like volume, kind of monotonous work. Things like collaborations and barrel treatments and spiral treatments and spinning different beers and all this is as much fun for the brewery and the brewer as it is for us and the drinker. And I think you're right. It is the collaborative effort. I've seen it so much with my brewer at Blue Jacket, Megan Parisi. When we go and do collaborations, it's incredible how you could be like, oh, let's do this, and then the other brewer is like, yeah, that would be cool, and then we should do that, and literally saying things you would never have thought.
It's like songwriting and record producing.
Anything. Yeah, and when you think about it, it's always collaborative anyways because of the influence we get from so many people. The second collaboration beer that we're doing this week is from Blue Jacket and Devil's Backbone out in Central Virginia. Jason Oliver, one of the best brewers around locally and otherwise. These are just amazing stuff. We're basically producing a black Berliner Weiss, so a low alcohol wheat beer that's tart with some roasted malts. Delicious, amazing sessionable beer. But that just came about from, I remember we started talking, I was like, I would really love to brew a wheat beer of some kind, just to kind of see how that goes.
Sure.
Next thing you know, we're brewing something that's 3.5% alcohol, looks like a stout, tastes like a sour wheat beer. I mean, and, you know, how that happened, I don't even know. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's delicious stuff. And before we go, I want to remind everyone that we have started a new segment within our segment. It doesn't really have a title, but basically it's Ask Greg Your Question About Beer. And the email is beeroftheweek@WTOP.com. We've been compiling emails. We're going to sort through the questions, give them to Greg, and in future episodes we'll see what's on people's minds.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So I guess the title is Ask Greg.
Yeah, Ask Greg.
That's what we're going to call it.
Or Beer Me. Or maybe we'll figure out something. But for now, that's perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks as always, Greg. We appreciate it. Be sure to always drink responsibly and bring your thirst next time for another Beer of the Week.